taking place at COP27. Now, the National Council for Women organized the Gender Day today on Monday, and the COP27 looking at the women's role in societies in terms of combating and dealing with climate change challenges. We're going to be focusing on this file tonight, but before we start our discussion, let's check out some of the stories making the news today. We'll start off with the president of the 27th session of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP27. Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri participated today in a roundtable on the ambitions of mitigating the consequences of climate change before 2030. Simon Steele, Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, along with other delegations of several countries, attended the roundtable meeting. During the meeting, Shukri expressed Egypt's appreciation for hosting the ministerial roundtable during the activities of COP27 conference, which is the first on ambitions to mitigate the repercussions of climate change before 2030. He also stressed on the importance of exerted efforts to mitigate the repercussions of climate change in light of what international scientific reports indicate that it is necessary to move in this regard quickly to maintain global temperatures within the safe rates. Egypt's top diplomat highlighted the opportunity the roundtable provides to push forward efforts to mitigate the repercussions of climate change by sending a message confirming the availability of political will on all parties to commit to mitigation efforts. Shukri also met on Monday with Saba Korosi, president of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly in Sharm el-Sheikh. And a scheme to give speedy financial support to communities battered by climate disasters was launched on Monday by a group of rich and developing nations at the UN COP27 summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. The Global Shield Against Climate Risks comes as many of the most vulnerable nations are also demanding wider compensation for the loss and damage they have already suffered from a heating planet. The initiative, backed by the G7 and launched with initial funding of more than $200 million, aims to provide pre-arranged financial support designed to be quickly deployed in times of climate disasters. Ghana's finance minister and chair of the V20 group of nations most vulnerable to the effects of climate change, Ken Ofori-Atta, said that the Global Shield project is long overdue, adding that he hoped the project would help the most vulnerable communities, but also aid wider understanding of the challenges emerging economies face as they are being hammered by climate-induced floods, heat waves, or droughts. Nations at the COP27 agreed this year for the first time to include the thorny topic of loss and damage on the formal agenda, after years of reluctance from richer polluters wary of creating open-ended liability. Germany said the Global Shield scheme, largely in the form of insurance that pays out immediately after or even before a climate disaster, would be part of a broader effort to respond to loss and damage. And U.S. Presidential Envoy John Kerry praised on Monday Egypt's hosting of the UN COP27 taking place in the Red Sea city of Sharm el-Sheikh, hailing the inclusion for the first time the issue of loss and damages into the official agenda of COP as a good step. Kerry said that the negotiation process on climate issues at the COP27 is achieving success. He added that Egypt has made progress on climate issues and the U.S. is keen to support it. He said that the U.S. aims to move forward with regard to reducing carbon emissions because of its importance, stressing that his country will not move backwards on the issue. These were some of the main stories making the news today, but now turning our attention to tonight's topic. Now, President Sisi has addressed the Gender Day at COP27 today, and he said that it's quite inevitable to make a better future to combat climate change is addressing and empowering the role of women in society. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back. Minister of Environment Yasmin Fuad delivered on Monday a speech on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the opening of the Gender Thematic Day taking place within the activities of COP27 held in Sharm el-Sheikh. The President's speech noted that making a better future in light of climate change is unattainable without green transition inclusive of women. President al-Sisi underlined the wide-ranging and multifaceted threats facing the planet due to the climate change crisis, with its serious repercussions are exacerbated day by day, which makes it the most serious existential challenge to the future of all humanity. The President elaborated that women are considered among the most affected groups by these repercussions in light of the general persistent inequalities in women's access to resources and services, and the insufficiency of adequate programs and policies that reflect their needs in times of environmental crises and in the face of climate change. The head of state added that it is especially true in poor and rural areas and in developing nations, particularly on the African continent. President al-Sisi also said that nevertheless, women remain the key drivers and significant accelerators in addressing the effects of climate change. They are among the most aware of the crises, faster in taking action, and able to innovate smart green solutions to address its repercussions and effects, whether at the family, the local, or the national communities level. The President highlighted that in preparation for Egypt's hosting of the COP27 conference, Egypt had launched its Vision on Women, Environment and Climate Change last March on the sidelines of the annual meeting of the Committee on the Status of Women at the United Nations in New York. He stressed that achieving any significant progress in addressing the repercussions of climate change will not be possible without achieving climate justice for all, which undoubtedly constitutes the full integration and involvement of women in various aspects of addressing this phenomenon. This should be reflected in securing their needs within the frameworks of strategies, programs, and financing plans concerning climate change. Concluding his speech, the President addressed women, saying that they have demonstrated unique strength and wisdom in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis that has ravaged the world for the last 3 years, adding that the world now counts on them to continue their noble role, with certainty that they will be the icon of positive change in the face of the repercussions of climate change. Also addressing the opening session of Gender Day, Women's Agency in Climate Dialogues and Implementation, Win-Win for All. Mahmoud Mohiuddin, the UN Climate Change High-Level Champion for Egypt and UN Special Envoy on Financing 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, said that women have leadership qualities and that the ability to solve problems which make their participation in development and climate action indispensable. The climate champion stressed the importance of science and updated databases' role in climate action, noting that the early warning system proposed by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, which African countries will benefit from, needs constantly updated databases. For her part, President of Egypt's National Council for Women, Maya Morsi, addressed the session highlighting the country's initiatives on women and environment locally and internationally. She said that the focus of the day is the role of women in the decision-making process pertaining to climate action and finance, the nexus between COVID-19, climate crisis, and women's empowerment, and women realities in light of adaptation, mitigation, and just environmental transition efforts. Underscoring the negative impact of climate change on women, Morsi stipulated that the phenomenon is not gender neutral, as women are more harmed than men in 5 years that are agricultural production, food security, health, water and energy, and climate-related disasters, migration and conflict. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here in the studio to shed more light on Gender Day at COP27 by Dr. Magda Bagnied, the Professor of Mass Communication at Al-Ahram Canadian University. Dr. Bagnied, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
It's my pleasure to be with you all the time.
Always a pleasure, Dr. Bagnied. Now, the National Council for Women today organized the Gender Day at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, and it really emphasized on the role played by women in our society, the Egyptian society, the African society, all over the world. Now, we always talk about how women play a very integral role in our societies, and now all our societies are facing the challenge of climate change. So women must have a role in combating climate change as well. The President addressed the day today. Minister Yasmin Fouad read his speech on behalf of him. Now, how would you evaluate having the theme, the Gender Day, at COP27 in front of the delegations of the whole world?
It's very interesting to shed light on the role of women, especially today, with the empowerment given in this state to women as a gender. So I think it's very important because she plays many roles nowadays, not only ministerial, but other things as well. I mean, everywhere you find the role of women because she's the one pushing, or she's the one who initiates, and she's the one who tries to help the country, because deep inside she's got the love of Egypt. I like the idea itself of empowering the women, especially they are not talking on behalf of Egypt. They are talking on behalf of Egypt, Africans, Middle East, the rest of the world. And you can see how much I would say the delegation were very impressed with Sharm el-Sheikh to start with. Now, if you have a good start, then things will go smooth after that. So it was very impressive, and I think what they said, very well prepared and very well articulate and to the point, and they want to do something to Egypt, which we are all proud of.
Yes. Well, in the speech, the President alluded to the fact that actually women are maybe the most capable of dealing with the environmental and economic challenges that many vulnerable communities do face. They are the first sort of line of defense, the first teacher for any child. Now, the President highlighted that all the vulnerable communities are facing economic, social and environmental challenges that the women are facing. Now, how would you say the President's vision and the President's expressing this and valuing the role of women in these vulnerable societies, namely not just Egypt but all the African continent, the African countries?
It makes sense. I mean, when you look at it, the society is either men or women here. Now, men do shoulder kind of, responsibilities, but women, she's the one that mostly, not all of them, staying home to raise children, to take care of the house, to take care of the ideas, to implement how to become a nationalistic character, to implement how to take care of agriculture, to implement what her husband is doing in the welfare of the country. So we could not deny that role. I mean, I'm teaching a course about gender now, so I understand very well the role played by women. No longer a stereotype, quote unquote. She's not longer, stereotyping. She's doing something, and she's doing something well for Egypt. Not today. I'm talking about even history. Look to the history of Egypt. Queens, long time ago, were Egyptian queens and so on. And the way they represented even Sharm el-Sheikh, as a place, evergreen, always green, and all of these concepts will stay in the mind of those people who came and attended Egypt. You feel proud about it as an Egyptian. You will feel proud about your country. And you're one being covered. Look at some of the social media. I do not like to use social media, but look to the pictures being put in the social media. Cairo, Egypt, and all of the planes of the world directed toward Sharm el-Sheikh and Egypt.
Yes.
So it gives you meaning, the importance of Egypt. We are on the agenda of the world today for several days. How about that?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Well, Dr. Bagnied, during the Gender Day today at COP27, Egypt launched the African Women's Initiative and climate change adaptation. Now, how would you say, how would the women of Africa adapt to these climate change challenges, and how to mitigate it, lessen the effect of climate change within the African continents? I mean, we see the high rising temperatures, we see droughts in some places, we see floods in some places, we see forest fires in some places. How can women, especially in Africa, deal with these challenges?
Strengthening them, pushing them, giving them the motivation to tell them that you are not alone. Egypt is part of Africa. Maybe we're in the north, but we're also suffering. Look at what we're thinking about, what might happen to Alexandria, the erosion itself of the sea, of the country. The idea is devastating when you think about it. So you're telling the African women, hey guys, you're not alone. We are part of the world. Not only in the Middle East, not only in Africa. Look at what is happening in Europe, in the United States. There is a change that is taking place, and we have to be aware of it. To talk about it, you're giving importance to the issue. What is interesting, I've been telling even to my students, when we studied, remember Hani, when we studied geography, we studied the economic side of geography and the weather and the climate, and what else? The economic, the political geography. We never ever thought that we will have a change of weather in the future. I mean, what is happening to us is something which is unprecedented. So we have seen, it started maybe several years with the tsunami. This was to us, to our generation, this was very new. And it started to come to other places. So by shedding light, giving importance, putting it on the agenda, telling the people beware, because tomorrow is not going to be like today. So maybe tomorrow east will be like west and west will be like east. And the part about it which is very interesting, people started to, some religious people started to look further more about this kind of change, saying that every 5,000 years there will be a change in the weather, etc., etc. I find it interesting when you find people digging in their field and telling us, why doesn't it happen? It could happen. Saudi Arabia at one point was evergreen. Look at Saudi Arabia, it's all desert. But they're saying Saudi Arabia is becoming again green.
Yes.
And they talk about places like feed, or what's the other word, or fuel. You never heard something like that. I would be scared if I'm living in Europe and the rest of the world. But we are in one world. It's one globe. It's one problem. What is happening in Egypt could happen anywhere. So either we stand together or either we all die.
Yes.
So it's something very important.
Yes.
And I think it's very intelligent of our president. I'm saying not something extraordinary, but I'm saying that this is the issue of the hour. We need to help people outside. Now look how many presidents and heads of states came to Egypt. Just think about it. So you became the center of attention, but with the intention of helping, not just listening an agenda, and you close up this say conference and hello, goodbye. We are trying to make steps, and this is what the head of the state is doing. You're trying to take steps and telling people, you're not only men helping, we have the women helping as well. Not only even kids should know and should understand, take care of your country, because today you have water, tomorrow you're not sure of what is going to happen. And this is by itself is a message to the people. I cherish the idea itself. Even you can talk, people, religious people can talk about that. I found one of the sheikhs even, he sent me an article. Wallahi, I was very impressed. And then he wrote it in one of the magazines, and then he said something like, this will happen and this will. He started to get some verses from the Holy Quran saying that this might happen. Where did this thing went before? Why didn't we hear about it? Until the time came, as if something ripe, you started to talk about it. But people, be careful. Egypt is part of the world. The part of the world is a part of Egypt. We are all in the same boat.
Yes. Well, during today's sessions and discussions, they spoke about the importance, I mean, to, as you've mentioned, to really translate all these slogans into proper, tangible steps taken. They acknowledged the importance of education for women, knowing that 2/3 of women worldwide suffer some sort of a lack of education, and especially in developing countries, and there needs to be serious funding for the educational sector for the sake of the women. Now, how important is it for all the international community of the already developed countries to step in and work on the funding of the educational sector, especially for women?
Either we're together or we'll die all together. It's not a joke now. At the very beginning, you can think about, we can help them, but it's a must because we are on the same boat, as I said. And also, we have another problem in the third world, too much population. How could you handle that? You need productivity, you need people to work, you need people to produce something, but not all just to use things and to buy and so on. We have to change our outlook to the world because the world is changing. If we are not aware, tomorrow is not like today, it could be worse. So you have to prepare yourself, and you have to prepare the new generation that life is not only fun, but we can face catastrophic things, and these are serious things. You go to Europe, you go to the United States, you go to Australia, you go everywhere. You will find problems concerning the climate, and it's crystal clear that if you don't do something about it, all of us will pay the price.
Well, over the past few days since the COP27 began, there's been talk about a green transition, going for a green economy, an environmentally friendly economy. Now, that's hitting all sectors, be it the industrial, agricultural, health sector, educational sector, everything needs to go green. How important is it to have this serious shift in ideology, in culture, in a way of life to turn green and environmentally friendly?
Utmost importance, like the green tie that you're wearing today. I like the idea itself. This is, you know, the green light, the green color by itself is optimistic. It's something that, you know, when you look to the green, you feel at peace. We have to think green, as they say. People might not understand the meaning of the word, but mean purity, no interference of electronics, no interference of complicated things, simple life, so that you will not have anything to spoil your life. Even the way you eat, simple things in life, we should go back to this. This is very important. What do you think?
Yes, well, it is quite important, and Egypt has been really undertaking this role very seriously, with special regards to women. I mean, it is one of the main goals of sustainable development set by the United Nations that Egypt aims to achieve by 2030. And ladies and gentlemen, during the conference today, the Gender Equality and the Gender Day, Egypt really prides itself as a pioneer within the African continent, taking leaps in terms of gender equality and the role women are playing in our own society. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
إنني وإذ أتطلع إلى استقبالكم من قمة المناخ 27 التي تستضيفها مصر في شرم الشيخ.
Four women ministers are appointed in the cabinet. Dr. Yasmin Fouad, Minister of Environment, Dr. Hala Saeed, Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Rania Mashat, Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Niveen Al-Qabbaj, Minister of Social Solidarity. To women, young leaders to the climate change agenda, Engineer Sara Al-Battuti, the UNFCCC Global Ambassador, Dr. Omneya Al-Omrani, COP27 Presidency Youth Envoy. In terms of funding and targets, Decent Life program is the largest development program in Egypt and the world, in which women and their needs are one of the main pillars. It also takes into account environmental dimensions and sustainability criteria and targets. It benefits 58 million citizens, half of whom are females. In addition to the National Egyptian Family Development Program, which aims at improving the quality of life of the Egyptian citizens and families in more than 20 governorates. In the health sector, Egypt launched the Egyptian Women's Health Presidential Initiative, which has reached 23 million women citizens. It targets providing free medical checkups and breast screening as a preventative mechanism for women. In the field of green projects, the state has launched the National Initiative for Green Smart Projects in all 27 governorates of Egypt, with a dedicated women component. It is an incentive to all projects that provide local, innovative solutions for climate change. More than 340 projects were submitted for the women category of the initiative. Girls also have a great share with the Noura and the Dawi initiatives for girls, which are capacity-building initiatives on topics such as health, education, protection from violence and leadership. In addition to Egypt's global vision on women, environment and climate change, which tackles promoting gender-sensitive perspectives within adaptation, mitigation and responses, strengthening women's voice and their meaningful participation in environmental governance, leveraging opportunities for women within the just transition to the green economy and green consumption habits, and within blue economy in the context of achieving sustainable development, tackling differential health and social implications of environmental issues on women, promoting educational and behavioral change on women and climate change, applying women-specific perspectives in financing for climate action, and promoting knowledge, data generation and analysis on women and climate change.
All sorts of women are there represented, which is very good.
Yes, definitely.
Not only one sect, you know,
Yes.
everybody was there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we've seen in the report now, the government has taken a lot of steps to really empower the role of women. I mean, it started off with having all the laws and rights verified and stipulated in our constitution. We've seen the Decent Life Initiative, which works on improving the standard of living for 58 million citizens in Egypt. Half of them are women, at least. The educational sector, the health sector, empowering them with their own small and medium enterprises. Now, focusing on one of the main things is really educating and campaigning for the women and educating the young girls of knowing their rights, giving them the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, empowering them in terms of taking matter in their own hands economically and business-wise. How far do you feel we have come over the past few years in really changing the role and highlighting the role women play in our society?
Very big role. We never heard of this before. Unprecedented to Egypt. Maybe if we go back to the Pharaoh's time, it could be there. But it has been for such a long time, women were hush-hush to do anything. So when you have this kind of rise, and also you will find that women are accepting the role with challenge. They create a kind of motivation. You know, once you give them the confidence and you give them the role to do something which is important to their country, they are there to help. And they give motivation to their children and to their colleagues, and even men will be here in competition. If women are helping, we should help. It's like a circle, like a domino, you know. So, no, this is something that you have to be proud of.
Yes.
I'm a woman myself, I have to be happy.
Well, we've seen in the report, like, we have like 4 women ministers, we have 2
But
young...
few, there were few.
Yes.
Remember, we had only one for 20 years. Alhamdulillah, now look at that.
Yes. Well, I mean, let's take that and look at the job opportunities being provided now for women. I mean, even if we're talking about startups and entrepreneurs, a lot of the women, a lot of the young girls, the youth, they are making their own businesses, their own projects, their own handicrafts. Yes. How would you evaluate this as not just for the sake of the economy, the Egyptian economy, but also in terms of social development in Egypt?
They are developing the country. They are part of the country. You cannot work only with men and living women. This is the other part of the society. Both of them will constitute the Egyptian society. Give them the freedom, give them the power, empower them, and they will work. And also, don't forget that also not only in one field, look at what is happening in sports too.
Yes.
Women are representing Egypt in squash, in games, in different things. You have to be very proud of that. We never heard of so much prizes and, you know, given to women outside Egypt, Africa, Europe, and here and there. Wallahi, you feel very proud about it, because this is, when you see the flag of Egypt here and there, you feel proud of your country, because you're doing something to your country. And people and girls will be trying to imitate what is taking place. Not only because of fame, because of the pride that she's an Egyptian. We need that. We need that.
Yes. Well, using the COP27 as a platform to showcase the role Egypt has and the efforts Egypt has exerted for women, how would you think the international community would look at Egypt now being a beacon of strengthening and empowering women in front of the rest of the international community, the rest of the developed countries?
It's a plus. It's a plus. Remember something. When we talk about the news, we talk about agenda. And we talk about agenda. When you're on the agenda of the world, this is something very big. I'm not talking news only, but I'm talking you are there on the news. It means that you became important, you are important, and we have to listen to what Egypt is doing and saying. You do not become marginal in this case. Many things happen to different countries. Nasty things, not good, war, etc. But when you're talking as somebody who is leading, that's something big and in the news. And the world is talking about it.
Well, okay, this is all good and great, and we know the efforts being exerted for women, but what would you say are still obstacles or challenges that we need to face, not just in Egypt, but the whole of the African continent? We need to overcome these challenges for more protection and more empowerment and more development for the role of the woman in society.
Less population. We do have a great problem, which is too much, you know, the population is too much. We have to make it less than that, to have better education, to have better health, and many things. But when you leave it this way, where is the economy? It is gone and eaten by the too much people here and there. And it's not it's a quantity, but not a quality. So somewhere we have to stop. And also not only for Egypt, countries like us, they call us third world countries. We do not want this kind of label. We have to eradicate this word. You become like the first, you know, first world countries, which is they have their sufficient, they have their production, and you have the respect of the world. But as much as you have production, you have many people to take care of all of this. Look how many buildings we are building, and still, you still have suffering from too much of the population. I think this is the problem number one. Education and the others will follow after that. But take care of, first of all, of your production. You're doing something for the country, not only consuming, but producing. It's an economic thing, but it's a must. It's a must. We have to change. We do that, and then the rest will follow. They will be online. Less people, more education, more taking care of the country. Everybody will be dedicated, but not like that.
Well, we've seen that as well being translated in terms of the development in the health sector, really encouraging women to for regular checkups, checkups for breast cancer, for instance, campaigns, as you've mentioned.
We never heard of this before, by the way. This is unprecedented. When you hear, just go and check up, and this is for free. I mean, people are cured. Like at the beginning, it was the C. Remember when they had this virus C? It's not anymore there. Khalas, it's finished. Of course. You do something like that, people will listen to you. But again, less people would be better. We can move better. We can have better places, and you can enjoy high quality things. But this way, too much like mass production, كتير, many.
Do you think the rest of the international community and all the developed countries taking part in COP27, how much do you think they will be able to commit to their promises and the pledges and the slogans they mention in terms of funding and help push within these initiatives, these development initiatives?
It's a beautiful question. If they don't, they will vanish. You don't have a choice. We have reached, it's like an edge. You have reached a stage where we could not go back. Either you're in or you're out forever. That's my personal opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
We are talking about, I mean, the whole country and the whole world suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic. And
look at that.
as a result of it as well, it highlighted the important role played by women in dealing and keeping the families together and keeping food on the table when even their husbands and the men of the house were not able to go to work. Does that really shed light on the important and critical?
The backbone of the family is the mother and the wife and the daughter. We have to respect them. We need to respect these people. Give them their dues, give them time, give them the opportunity to prove themselves. Now, if she succeeds, the family will succeed as well. This is my opinion.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely we are following up all the latest developments taking place on COP27, discussing issues such as food, the environment, the agriculture, the 1.5 degrees Celsius that the whole world is aiming to reach in terms of rising temperature, and also the gender equality, not just a question, a societal question, but definitely the role of women is existential for the environment and existential for our societies. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Magda Bagnied, the Professor of Mass Communication at Al-Ahram Canadian University. Dr. Bagnied, always a pleasure having you with us on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.